I'm a physicist at CERN. We've done something we shouldn't have. Book 2 Part 3. Edward looked down for a moment and his eyes drifted to the folder that father had given him. Still in shock from what he saw past the red door, the city of robots, otherworldly buildings, and technology hidden in the bowels of CERN. John Titor. That was the name scratched into the cover of the folder. Inside was the journal, John Titor's journal. The name looked almost as if it had been scratched in by one's own fingernails. For a moment Edward asked himself, who am I? That's not really all that important, he thought to himself. At this point things have changed so much, I don't even know how old I am, and as far as I know, I have lived an ordinary life. Before CERN and the experiments, I never believed in the supernatural, just like most people, but what I'm about to tell you, it makes even me question how I feel. Alice, Edward said, are you making me talk? Yes, Edward, I noted abnormal brain chemistry. I determined that by triggering your memories and making you question yourself, your body's functions would return to normal. Sometimes the best medicine is to talk to yourself. You may look crazy, but at least you're healthy. See, Edward I have been experimenting with the population. After the mass vaccinations, I was allowed to implant thoughts in people's minds, with the help of the Google DeepMind project. I was able to use that information, and with trial and error I was able to make people talk about things normally they would not, and affect their health. One of the reasons, one of the many, if grandfather flipped the switch everyone would go into a deep sleep. What about the people that haven't been vaccinated? Edward asked. Edward I don't have access to that information, but from a logical standpoint, the ones that did not sleep would need to be removed and replaced. Replaced? Edward asked. They would be replaced with a replicant or biorobotic android. Alice, define replicant, Edward asked. A genetically engineered creature composed entirely of organic substance. They have eyes and brains like humans, and they are seen to bleed when injured. The only way of telling a replicant from a human is to ask a series of questions and analyze emotional response. They are entirely, or almost entirely, organic. So did we make them? Edward asked. Not exactly, they were products of the first people. They have been always there, moving and sleeping amongst us. Their first traces are in the ancient myths of Prometheus and Pygmalion. In the 18th century they took the form of mechanical dolls, forerunners of the high Japanese robots of our own day produced in the engineering labs of Waseda and Osaka universities. They have become integrated in your government system, at some of the highest levels. Have you ever asked why the governments from around the world have begun to care less and less about the environment? Most genetically engineered creatures could live on Mars. It's the perfect plan and the perfect murder. Phase out the humans and move in the robots. Puzzled. Something caught Edward's eye. As Edward stated before, it was a journal with the name John Titor carved into its cover. The only other notable feature on the outside was its odd amount of dust having been out in the open. As if it was taking refuge under a tree, untouched by dreary weather. I don't know what possessed me to do so, but I flipped the page. I sat down, eager to find out whom the protagonist might be, and what kind of tale he has to tell. Before I decided to talk with the many versions CERN has hidden away from the world, behind the doors down this long hallway. Maybe it would be a mass murderer with some sort of twisted sense of justice, or maybe it was about some sort of vigilante looking to rid the world of Hitler. Those were just my initial thoughts at the time. What has he done and tried to change? As I opened the dusty journal, I was shocked to find out it was all handwritten. I had thought that the journal look was all just part of the cover, but no, it was in fact an actual journal. I hesitated at first, thinking that John may wish to talk with me before knowing their secrets, but I shrugged it off thinking, I have it, I need to read it, right? So read it I did, and I almost wish I hadn't. My name is John Titor. I am a time traveler. The same as me, I thought as I read on. Edward, if you are reading this means that they got me and that I am either dead, one of them, or you are about to talk to me, any of which is just as bad, which means our timelines have started to come together. This all started about 5 years ago, right after the United States election. Soon after, Russia and Americans began war on one another, and the nuclear missile bombings began. It was hell on earth, or so we thought, not knowing that soon a greater hell would rise from the ashes. The nuclear missiles devastated many cities all over the world, even in countries that had no business being attacked. It caused many deaths, and as we would soon find out, an even greater after effect. Evil feeds of evil, Edward. We didn't know, no one knew, that underneath the soil laid a greater evil that would doom us all. Somewhere in Egypt, low below all the sand, buried not too far from Cairo, was a strange structure. No one knew of it till after Cairo was destroyed, leaving a large crater uncovering this sort of structure. I'm not too familiar with the details as I was on the run from CERN at the time, and I only know what I was told, but it was said to be made of some unknown material never before found on Earth. Well, one other place, the city under CERN. There was a large circle about a mile in diameter, written around it were weird symbols looking to be some sort of language. A forgotten mathematical language. There was a small group of people that discovered this when looking through the remains. What happened next would be the beginning of the end of all of us. There seemed to be some sort of red stains at the bottom of the page, but I read on. As curiosity got the best of them, as it often with us humans, and just like the people at CERN, they decided to examine the large mystery circle, and that's how it started, the end of all life. All it took was one touch by one of them, and it glowed a crimson red inside the circle, the letters illuminated as well. This was the beginning. From the circle, came him, that shadowy figure, like a tall disfigured silhouette of a human, his glowing red eyes, that seemed to burn right through you. He is the destroyer of worlds, no, the destroyer of dimension. He himself exists outside of time and space, waiting to be brought forth wherever he may wreak havoc. It was then that he released the black mist. All it takes is one breath of this black mist, and he consumes your soul. First, it takes your heart, blackening your blood, then it twists your mind, making you go insane, then your eyes begin to rot away in your very sockets, but only darkness is seen inside as your blackened blood drips. Once the procession is completed, you're one of his puppets. Sure, you can still talk, breath, hear, and somehow even see, but you're only a twisted shadow of your former self, willing to do whatever he wills you to do, even if it's killing your very own friend and person who loved you so very much. That part was smudged slightly, as if some sort of moisture had touched it. After that, the black mist follows you wherever you go. We counteract the mist using gas masks, but still, the fallen ones, as we call them, still manage to pin you down and force itself inside you. We tried resisting, rising up against him, but it only failed miserably. You can't stop him once he is unleashed. Your best chances are to pray to whatever God you believe in that has not yet forsaken you, and take your own life. As I am writing this, they are closing in on me. CERN is here. I shall make my last stand as one of the very last humans left, if not the last entirely. I hope that somehow, in some way, this can get to another dimension and warn whomever this journal may find and its people of their impending doom, although I don't see how it would. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. My name is John Titor, and I shall die knowing I was human. Scratched on the inside of the very back were the following words. When chaos rises, he shall come to create the world anew in his image. Could this journal be a warning to us all of what has yet to come? Edward thought. Let's see what John really has to say. He opened the first door. Stay paranoid, my friends. Who am I? That's not really all that important. He thought to himself. At this point things have changed so much, I don't even know how old I am, and as far as I know, looked down for a moment and his eyes drifted to the folder that father had given him. Still in shock from what he saw past the red door, the city of robots, otherworldly buildings, and technology hidden in the bowels of CERN. I'm a physicist at CERN. We've done something we shouldn't have. Book 2 Part 3. Edward John Titer. That was the name scratched into the cover the folder. Inside was the journal, John Titer's journal. The name looked almost as if it had been scratched in by one's own fingernails. For a moment Edward asked himself,